translating Norse words of Norse lore, Norse religion into Sanskrit to bring the Viking kingdom to India. So, why do we want to do such an endeavor? Well, the Viking culture is interesting, and the Western people, Europeans and Americans, have a great grasp on this. But the thing is, in India, it's very difficult because they don't really care about these stuff. I mean, there are people who do care, but those are the people that know English. And the problem is, it's very cringy when we have Western names rendered into Sanskrit. So, this is how we're going to render the names. For classical names like Thor or Odin, we can replace the Norse nominative case with the Sanskritive case. So Odin, and the second N is a nominative case. It was actually rendered in Latin as Odinus, and thus the Sanskrit suffix is aha, so Odinaha. For Thor, it's Thoraha. And names ending in IR, like Fenrir, or E, like Loki, we'll just add Ihi, so Fenrihi, Lokihi. We can also use cognates. For example, Thor is actually cognate to English thunder, which is cognate to Sanskrit stanita. So Thor could be called a stanita or staniter, but it kind of takes out the Germanic flavor out of this Germanic culture when we render it into Sanskrit. But we want to preserve the Germanic nature when we render it into Sanskrit. For feminine names, just take the A at the end and make them a long A, or if it's an I ending name, just make it a long I. So let's name stuff. Gods, Devaha, or Devaha. The Aesir, or us, in the singular, is cognate to Sanskrit Asura and Asu, which means a vital breath. So Aesir is Asudevaha. This is the plural. Vanir is another class of gods, which I'll render directly as Vani Devaha, as the etymology for Vanir is a bit obscure. Odin is Odinaha, or Vata Devaha, or Vatin. Now Vata is cognate to Norse Other, which is a divine ecstasy or a madness. And Vata, while additioning to being wind, it also translates to attacked, injured, or assailed. I just want to preserve the etymology as well. So I'm just going to use these as synonymously. Thor, Thoraha, Stanita or Staniter, which means thunderer. But Thoraha, we want to try to sound like the original Norse language while rendering it into Sanskrit. Loki is Lokihi. Balder or is Baldaha. Heimdall is Heimdallaha. The goddess is Devyaha. Freya or Freya. Now, it's actually, the letter is Pa, but with the dot it becomes Fa. So, Preya is actually Freya. Fun fact, Freya is actually cognate to Priya in Sanskrit. Sif, Sifi, Sifya. I really don't have a better term, and there should be a dot under the Pa. And there's Sibya, which reflects the Proto-Germanic form of Sif's name. There's Skadi, which is just Skadi. Hel, which is Hela. Hel is with one L, but it does have the meaning of hell, like the location where you go after death. So you have Naraki from Sanskrit Naraka, which is the Hindu version of hell. And then there's also Shala, or Shala Devi. Shala is cognate to hell. Yord, Prithvi, as Yord means earth. Animals. Fenris, or Fenrir, is Fenrihi. Fenrir is the wolf. So Jormungandr, which actually is the big serpent, and that can be rendered as Jormungandaha directly, or Mahayashtihi, or Mahadandaha, which literally means great staff, as Gandhar means staff, but Gandhar can also mean monster, so you have Maharaurava, so great monster. Then you have Sleipnir, Odin's eight-legged horse, which I can render in Sanskrit as Sleipnihi. There's also Skalitar, reflecting Sleipnir's name of being the slipper. Let's look at some beings. So Jotuns, which are like the enemies of the gods, or they're a bit of frenemies with the gods, and they're not exactly giants. though they are translated as giants. So Jotun is actually cognate to the English word eat, and thus they have a sense of being well fed. So we have Baksha, which means eater. So we have Baksha Guhyaka, because when you look at the descriptions of Jotuns, the closest things I can find to in the Indian lore is Guhyakas, cave dwelling mountain beings. So we have Baksha Guhyaka or Baksha Asuraha, which is literally a eating asura. Now, asura, while it does mean demon and kind of does reflect the stance of the Jotuns, asura can have a neutral connotation of being a lord or a prince. And then for short, we'll have guhyaka, meaning cave dweller. Elves, rubus, in the Vedic lore are the handymen of the gods. Now, elves could come from albus, from Proto-Indo-European, meaning white, or albus, which is cognate to Latin labor, and Sanskrit lab, the root meaning to grasp, which is also rab. Terse, tura sura. Terse is cognate to Sanskrit adjective tura meaning strong, rich, or quick. So a demon that is strong, rich, or quick is tura sura, and thus terse. Locations: Asgard. So I have several. So Asuloka, Asudevaloka, Asudevalaya. You can read them for yourself. But the main ones I do want to use is Asudeva Kaksha, the enclosure of the Aesir, because Kaksha kind of reflects the guard in Asgard. Asgard means enclosure, as in the enclosure of the gods. And this is a huge theme in the Norse lore. So there's also Asukaksha, and there's Asushala or Asudeva Shala. So my favorite one is Asudeva Kaksha. But then we'll just use Asuloka or Asukaksha for short to save up syllables. And there's Jotunheim, or Bhakshasura Guhyakalaya, Bhakshakasuraloka, or Bhakshaloka. It's actually Bhakshaloka, Bhakshaguhyakaloka. So Bhakshasura and Bhakshaloka are my favorite ones as the syllables are eloquent. Midgard, or the middle enclosure, so Madhyakaksha, Madhyaloka, Madhyashala. Madhyaloka is for me the better one because it reflects the Sanskrit term better, and Madhyaloka means middle realm, and in Sanskrit it literally means earth, the same as in Midgarder. Niflheim literally means the realm of the clouds or mist. So in Sanskrit that would be Meghalaya. It would be Meghalaya or Meghaloka. Nidavalier, which means dark fields, so Shyama Kshetra, Krishna Kshetra, Kala Kshetra, but it can also mean downward field, Adha Kshetra, but I prefer Krishna Kshetra or Kala Kshetra, meaning black fields. And this ties to what exactly Nidavalier might be, which is a ideal version of the boglands, because Vikings would get their iron from boglands. Vanaheim, home of the Vanir gods, so Vani Devalaya or Vani Devaloka. I prefer the latter because Devalaya literally means temple, but I don't want a connotation of a temple. I want a connotation of a realm. So Vani Devaloka. Valhall or Valhalla is the realm of the slain warriors. So Hatavira would be slain warrior. So Hataviralaya, Hatavirashala, and Hatavirashala would directly reflect Valhall much directly because Shala and Hall are cognates. So then we also have Hatavira Loka, then have Hatalaya and Hataloka. I prefer Hatavira Shala and Hataloka as they are more eloquent in their syllables. Objects. Some of the common objects include this: the Bifrost, which is a rainbow bridge connecting the realm of the gods to that of man. So we have Bivrosta Setu. So Bivrosta is directly borrowed from Bifrost from the Old Norse, and Setu in Sanskrit means bridge. So we have Bifrost bridge. But the actual meaning of Bifrost is somewhere along the lines of shimmering bridge. So we have Dyuti Setu, and then since it's a rainbow bridge, you could use Suradhanu Setu or Surachapa Setu because Suradhanu and Surachapa means the bow of the gods or a rainbow. Gjallarhorn is the horn Heimdall uses, especially when signaling Ragnarok. Gjallar means hollering or crying out loud, so Rava in Sanskrit means to cry out loud. So Rava Shringa, and Shringa means horn, even the horns of an animal or the horn that you blow in. There's Tara Shringa, which means loud, shrill horn. But I do want to preserve the Norse name Gjallar, so I have Gjallashinga, which thus makes this a learned borrowing. Gungnir is Odin's spear, and I just borrowed it into Sanskrit as Gungnihi, though Vyadanashula is another epithet that reflects Gungnir's name because Gungnir means the one that pierces. So Vyadanashula means piercing spear, but I prefer Gungnihi because it's reflective of the actual Norse name. Mjolnir is Thor's famous hammer. I just rendered in Sanskrit as Mjolnihi. But Mjolnir also means grinder, so in Sanskrit that would be Garshitar. But I prefer the former, Mjolnihi. It's more reflective of the Norse name. And that's it. Now we have some terms. If I ever want to translate some Norse mythology into Sanskrit, I have some words to use. And if you ever want to spread Norse lore, Norse religion into the Indian world, we have some ways to render it into the Indian languages. Another one I do want to do is Yggdrasil, which is the ash tree that Odin hung himself on and which all the nine realms are connected to. Yggdrasil will be directly translated as Yggdrasilaha. Thank you for watching.